Hey guys, how you doing? Theron Shan here. I wanted to make a quick video about the Calling All Devs episode we had yesterday, in which Dan Truffin spoke about player interactive quantum travel interdiction. Now, I've been seeing a couple threads pop up on the forum where some people are thinking how this mechanic might work, and I really don't have any necessarily better information than anybody else. However, this has been something that I have done quite a bit of theory crafting on for quite some time. And the reason that is because I think it really is going to end up being a pretty major gameplay element in Star Citizen. So I wanted to make a video thinking about how I think this mechanic might work and maybe hopefully put some fears to rest about some of the worries I think people may have. So we're going to... Generally, you can see here we're in the Stanton system with all the planets in rotation around the main star. Let's say that we were going to take a trip from the planet of Microtech to the Stanton Pyro jump point. Generally, a player might just take a straight line. You'll have to forgive me, this is just a drawing tool. It won't do a straight line. And that would be that. However, what other players might do is take this route. They might say, I'm going to jump to this direction and then jump here. And that's a viable tactic to take to maybe prevent getting interdicted. But I'm going to show you why the plan that Star Citizen has in place will still work even if you're using this tactic. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to shift some colors here to kind of show other ships traveling to and from various spots in the Stanton system. Someone's coming from one of the moons of ArcCorp. They're also making a jog and coming here to Microtech. Someone else is going directly from ArcCorp to Hurston. You have another player that is maybe going from one of the moons and you'll have to forgive me as I'm kind of just trying to do this really quick. Let's go, we're gonna do maybe from a moon of Microtech straight to Hurston. For right now, that's good enough. Well, what are some of the things that you see here? There are various points of intersection. Here, here, here. So even though you still take these divergent courses, you may go out, a few million kilometer, stop, and then go on to your final destination. At some point, you're still gonna cross paths. Well, how does that help the player who wants to do quantum travel interdiction? In order for that to work, I think CIG is going to have to implement one additional piece of technology. And that piece of technology is going to have to be something along the lines of a scanner that can see ships while they're in quantum travel. That's the only purpose of this device. It could just see ships as they're going back and forth. It reads the energy output. So let's just, I'm going to create a little box here. And this box right here is really going to denote the next video that I'm going to stitch in here to show how that's going to work. Now imagine there's not just these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ships going to and from, but there's multiple ships, players, NPCs moving to and from one location to the other. Maybe they might be coming from a spot in this asteroid belt to one of the various planets. They may have found a derelict here that they're bringing some information. They may just simply be transiting from Terra through Stanton to go into the Pyro system, which means they're really not stopping anywhere. They're just going from one jump point to another. The point is there's going to be a lot of traffic. Now, with all of that being said, I'm going to erase this because it's a lot to see. We're going to do a quick route. Let's do a route from Microtech to Hurston. Okay, you can see the distance from Microtech to Hurston is 2.5 AU. That's a pretty sizable distance. Now, with that being said, the Stanton system itself is actually a very small star system in the overall scheme of the Star Citizen universe. I think it's only about 5 AU in total diameter. If you were to measure, from Stanton, the main primary star, to Microtech, and then double that out. Actually, the system itself is actually wider than that. Really, you should be looking at from from the Stanton star all the way out to the Magnus jump point, but I think we'll just use that. The point being is that there's a lot of space, and people have asked the question, space is big. It goes back to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy quote. How are we going to run upon these random ships as they fly throughout the universe from various points of origin to various points of destination? And that's a good question. So if you'll remember that square that I made, we're going to answer that question in just a second. Okay, guys, how you doing? So you'll notice that we jumped out of the Arc Star map and into another game. This game is the remastered version of Homeworld. And this specifically is the navigation screen in the game. And the reason why I chose this screen is, to me, this is one of the best inspirations that I have found that I think CIG could use for the mechanic that I spoke of. You'll remember where we left off before we transitioned here is I drew that little red box in the Stanton system and said we need a way to figure out how to find ships that are in quantum travel. Without that ability, in my personal estimation, the mechanic probably will not work. And the reason for that is you're just going to end up relying on just plain luck or random number generation or what have you, and that doesn't make for a particularly compelling mechanic. So what you're seeing here is this large orange circle would be your sensor screen. This would be possibly a blade that you would buy that you could put into your computer core that would allow you to see other ships in quantum travel. There's nothing inherently special about this, nor is there anything inherently illegal about it that I could think of. Maybe CIG might feel differently, but I digress. The thing about it is choosing to put this blade into your computer is going to take up a CPU slot. You may not have the CPU slot available, or you may have to decide to remove a blade for something else in order to have this in there. So it's gonna require players to make value choices about what they want over something else. With that being said, what we have here is basically a radar screen that is, in my first iteration of the idea, is about 20 light seconds across. 20 light seconds equates to about 6 million kilometers. Now, 6 million kilometers sounds like a lot to be able to see, but remember, 1 AU is 150 million kilometers. So 6 million kilometers, it's really not a lot. It's like 4%, I think, if my math is correct, of the distance. So you would turn this on. It's a passive radar system. It doesn't alert any other ships in the area to the fact that you're looking at them in quantum travel. And you're able to see ships as they travel to and from an area at quantum speeds. So we're going to just send just a random ship through just to kind of show you. So as I'm on my screen, I may notice this one ship coming into my radar display, and I may be able to look at it and say, okay, oh here's some here's a contact. Now this is really important. The thing that I think is may make this work better is that you're not going to know that, oh, this is a scout and this is an interceptor. That is definitively going to break the mechanic. No pirate is going to intercept a squadron of Super Hornets. What you will be able to see is perhaps the mass of the contact and the energy output. Well, what good is that going to do? Well, what that will probably do, or at least the way that I look at it, is it might be able to tell you, okay, is this a low mass, low energy signature? Yeah, it is. Oh, it's a higher probability that this is just a single small ship. Is this a low mass, high energy signature? Yes, it is. Okay, that maybe it might be a fighter. Fighters tend to have higher energy outputs than cargo ships do. So maybe I feel kind of confident that that's what it is. Where it starts to get tricky is when you start seeing, maybe moderate mass, low energy signature. Okay, that's a might be a slightly larger object. That might be a constellation or a hull A or a smaller cargo ship. Where it gets trickier is when you start looking at it in terms of high mass, high energy output contacts. Okay, is that a convoy of hull C, D, and E's, maybe with an escort? Or is that two Polarises and an Idris and a squadron of Super Hornets? I don't know. You're not going to know. It's going to have to be kind of the gamble that you take. So with a radar screen that's that wide across, I think I had said 6 million kilometers, that is going to be roughly about 2 minutes across at quantum travel speeds. So it sounds really big, but it doesn't take a long time for ships to get across this area. And that's good. We don't want this area to be too large that you could see every ship in the system, but you want it to be large enough that you can maybe make a plan about what you're going to do. Okay, so as you're looking at ships traveling, so let's stop for a second. Let me back up for a second. The one thing that players have been saying in the forums is that, well, it won't work. I will simply just quantum travel off in a random direction for a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, stop, realign myself to my end destination, and then go back and head there. That's fine. You could do that. But this system, this mechanic, while it doesn't prevent that, and that's not the purpose, it's the counter to that. Because you may have done that, and I may just set up in a random spot in space, and I may still see your ship cut across my sensor screen. It's just because where I set up. I had a hunch that players might do that. I've maybe aligned myself to certain locations, and I feel that this is the best spot. It's very much like going fishing. You take a look at where you think the fish are hiding or the fish are going to go, whether the fish are migrating from one area to another, and you're going to set yourself up in the most advantageous spot to look and see if you can catch a fish. So, okay, here we go. We have our we have one ship here. We have another ship here, and we're going to put a couple more ships into play. Now you'll notice as you're looking on your screen, again, you could see this green line shows where that ship is heading. This green line shows where these ships are all going. This is really useful, and it's actually necessary for this whole mechanic of quantum travel interdiction, in my humble opinion, to work. And this is why. So you're sitting here with your radar on. I'm gonna move this guy over here, and you notice this group of ships, and that seems like a very viable target for you. So what you're going to see is you can see the end destination point for that ship. Now you can certainly try and intersect that ship somewhere along this point here, but you're going to have to choose a point at where you think that ship is going to go. Oop, I don't want to do that. So let's do this. We are going to take this ship and we are going to guess where that was. I wasn't really paying attention, so hopefully it works out. And you can see I went too far. Hey guys, how you doing? So you can see we basically skipped ahead a little bit. This was that convoy that we had spotted on the screen. We plotted a little intercept course. We got to where we wanted, and we set up our mine. This probe that I have right here, you can see on the screen, that's going to be the stand-in for our interdiction mine. So I'm going to do a couple of things here to make this particular scene a bit more manageable. What you're looking at here, this large blue circle, this is basically, in my iteration of this portion of the mechanic, is the area of effect for the interdiction mine. So the way that I would like to see it is that this area is at a minimum 1,000 kilometers across. Now that again doesn't seem like a lot of room or a lot of space, and it's not. There's a good chance that you will have flown to an area that you thought was going to intersect where the ship was going to go, and you missed, and the ship is going to fly right by, and that's going to happen. That's okay. I think that should happen in the game. I don't want this to just simply be you pick out a ship, you fly exactly to where the ship is going to be, you open up your interdiction mine, you power it up, and boom, they're caught. There's nothing they can do. If they pass through the area of effect, they're going to get interdicted. That's just a safety mechanic of the quantum drive engines. From first glance, I don't see any real way to defeat that part of the mechanic. However, you have to employ some skill, and that skill is, are you able to accurately determine where those ships are going, and can you accurately point an intercept point in space so you can get there before they do, deploy your mine, charge it up, and activate it so it creates this interdiction field. You may in fact miss, and the convoy may actually go right there and not be affected by your interdiction field at all. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause this really quick, and then I'm going to come back in. What we have here is too much for this small circle, so I'm going to pare it down to something more manageable. Okay, so basically I kind of pared that group down. I got rid of some of those ships. What you see here denotes the group of ships that were in that convoy. So generally what a player would do, this is the interdiction mechanic is not, and at least in my opinion, it's not the type of mechanic that you are going to use by yourself. in one ship. You're going to need, really, you're probably going to need friends to help you employ this technology correctly. There's simply too much space for you to adequately cover by yourself. There's very little chance of you being able to bring down a ship solo. And if there's multiple ships, it only makes the situation harder. So I think this is a mechanic that you're going to use with NPCs or friends or org mates or whatever. So what I would probably do is I would maybe put a couple of ships in various points of the sphere. And the reason that is when this ship becomes interdicted or hits that interdiction field, you're not really going to know where they're going to end up within that 1,000-kilometer sphere. They could literally end up anywhere. But 1,000 kilometers is going to be more than you're going to be able to see with your active and passive sensors. Therefore, you are going to need to perform some sort of search pattern. So let's pause this for a second. You can see that these ships have their own search pattern that they're running. This is important to note. Once this ship drops out of quantum travel, they are going to do one of a few things. They are either going to go immediately into stealth mode and try and hide and make their way outside of the area of effect of the quantum interdiction bubble. They're going to try and find the source of the interdiction field and destroy it. And or they're going to send out a call for help. So most likely, most players will send out a call for help and try and get out of the area of interdiction as fast as possible. That means they may go this way, right? So with that being said, you now have this ship going this way. You now have this ship searching for them. This ship is searching for them as well. But one more important thing is happening. When you activate this interdiction mine, you're going to notice these ripples coming off of this area. That's very important. And that's another balancing part of this mechanic. Imagine going to a lake, a calm lake, and even though that lake is calm, it still has those underlying ripples in it. It's just, the natural ebb and flow of the wind or whatever. But you go and you take a very large rock and you throw the rock into the lake. That rock is going to send ripples out throughout the lake. Depending on where you are in the lake, you may or may not detect those ripples. So you'll see this ripple gets really, really strong here. But as it moves all the way out, almost out to the end of the range of your sensors, it peters out into almost nothingness. It just, I guess, kind of goes into the background radiation of the solar system. Whatever the science is that you want to use to explain that, doesn't really matter. What's important is that other ships can detect that wave that gets put out when you activate that interdiction mine. Now, one of two things may happen. You may have a convoy of ships moving through. Another convoy of ships, they're also moving through. Okay, let's zoom in here. So you may have a couple, these aren't heavy corvettes. They are a different type of ship, okay? So what you have now is a series of ships that they may detect that pulse wave or that gravity wave from the interdiction mine. But this is a convoy. They are not going to stop and investigate that. If anything, they are going to maybe stop and alter course, or they're going to look and see if their course is going to intersect the location of that gravity wave. They can see that theirs does not. They're pretty much okay. All right. Unfortunately, what may also happen is that there may be various either militia groups in the region, there might be advocacy forces in the region, there might be bounty hunters in the region. When they detect that gravity wave going off, they may turn to investigate. They're going to probably say to themselves, something's going on in that location. Maybe someone needs my help. That may be a chance for me to make money. That may be a chance for me to collect a bounty. That may be a chance for me to do something. Furthermore, and this is another, I don't want to call it concern, but this is something, it is a concern that people who operate these interdiction devices should consider. Other pirates are going to notice that too if they're in the area. And one thing one pirate is certainly going to think is, hey, there's somebody out there interdicting a ship in this region. They're going to duke it out in one way or another. Whoever is the winner of that fight is going to be in a weakened state. I'm going to start heading in that general direction and see what I can find. Because whoever I come across, I don't care if it's another pirate. I don't care if it's a cargo ship. As far as I'm concerned, they're both fair game. So you have to be careful about tipping your hand in that fashion as well. So you can see that we now have, we're going to put this back in, we have this ship. These guys are going their own way. Same thing with these guys. They have detected that this was an interdiction device was activated here. They don't want any part of it. However, you also had these two ships, this advocacy ship and maybe this bounty hunter. Well, both of these just detected that device went off, and they do want a part of that. They're going to change their course and head in. So it may be important to have at least one of your ships keep this sensor screen open so they can determine, hey, we only have a minute left before whoever this is gets here. And we know that they're not friends of ours because we didn't call anybody. So whatever we're going to get, let's get, and let's get out of here. So let's say you can see these ships are still running the search pattern. They didn't find this ship. The ship has escaped. Whoever this is almost here. These ships decide it's time to go. They can actually probably just self-detonate this this quantum mine. And by detonating that mine, they lose it, unfortunately, if they can't recover it in time. But they also don't have to deal with whoever this is. And they may say, well, look, we don't want to deal with this. We thought we were going to capture somebody. We didn't. It didn't work out for us. Let's just, take our losses and get out of here. So that's the way that I see this mechanic being able to really shape up and be a really enjoyable part of Star Citizen gameplay. I know a lot of players have concerns about it being impossible to catch other ships. I think this mechanic shows, in my herky-jerky way, that it can work. I think that it shows that there's still some skill that needs to be employed in making this mechanic work. There's a chance for a player who's been interdicted to escape if they're smart about what they do. And then, in addition to that, one last thing that I think, and I'm not sure if I mentioned it before, but players were worried that, well, it'll just be one circle here and another circle here and another circle here and another circle here. It'll just be interdiction devices everywhere. You know, these pirates are just going to set up a series of interdiction devices all around. This guy is never going to have a chance to escape. Or when this guy is at the edge, someone else can quantum to right here, activate another mine, and then now they can't escape again. And then they can just keep doing that. My solution to that is actually pretty simple. This same gravity wave that you see pushing out from the center of this interdiction field is going to also prevent the formation of any other interdiction mines from working in this area. So if you want to have another interdiction mine active, it's going to have to be out here. Out here. It just won't work in here. That's for whatever hand wavium reason you want to use. It doesn't really matter. It's just balance. It's to prevent players from just completely griefing other players. I hope that you enjoyed the video. So hopefully it made sense. If you have any questions, you can post them in the thread that I'm going to link this to. I hope to see you guys in the verse, and take care.